So first, let me thank you all for being here. My name is Camille Del Grippo. I am the owner and operator of Celestial Healing Arts, which is a holistic healing practice that focuses on spiritual and personal growth. We're located down in Lansdowne, about 30 minutes south of here. Part of my mission is bringing the realms of spirit, the magical, which is just another word for energy work, down to the level that everyone can access to make it practical, make it accessible, and remove some of that mysticism that can sometimes be a barrier against us to accessing spirit. So, practical magic. What does that mean? First, we're going to start off by defining practical. Practical is of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than theories and ideas. And magic is the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. So practical magic is taking that which is intangible and putting it into practical application, something that you can actually use in your daily life. So as we're talking, there's a lot of different examples in your handout. Remember, take what works for you and leave what doesn't. This is all about your personal path and what works for you. So the things that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about spiritual hygiene, cleansing and protection, daily rituals, and communicating with spirit. The reason I start with spiritual hygiene is because that is the foundation for creating a healthy and safe relationship with the realms of spirit. So again, I'm going to define that real quick. So spiritual is relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. And hygiene is the conditions or practices conducive to maintaining health, preventing disease, especially through cleanliness. So that means what we're doing is we're keeping our spiritual self, our soul, our etheric body, whatever you want to call it, we're keeping that clean to keep our spiritual selves healthy so that we can connect, communicate, have these experiences in a way that doesn't leave us drained. It doesn't leave us feeling gunky and fatigued. So the way I oftentimes talk about spiritual hygiene is doing it in an incredibly practical way. My favorite thing to do is make bath time magical. Most people take a shower or a bath, one would hope. So first and foremost, the element of water is incredibly healing and cleansing, and it's very conductive. So it is great for this type of work. The way that we can affect spiritual cleansing with our physical cleansing is through one of the Hermetic principles of correspondence. The Hermetic principle of correspondence is, you may be familiar with this, maybe not, as above, so below. What happens on this plane affects the spiritual plane, and vice versa. So what we're doing when we're cleansing our physical body, we can take it to the next level. We can go from just washing our body to cleansing our spirit. And it takes a little bit of visualization, a little bit of intention, but it doesn't have to be that hard. You can just imagine when you're in the shower, as that water's crashing over you, that it's removing that stress, the anxieties, that blockages, those interactions that you have with people that just leave you feeling just, ugh. Imagine that flowing down your body, down the drain. Go away, go down there. You can also do that with a bath. You can even take it to the next level by incorporating things like salt scrubs, salt soaks, using different herbal baths to create different metaphysical effects or even aromatherapeutic effects. So it can be a really great way for you to explore with yourself to see what really works for me. And it doesn't have to take a whole lot of extra time out of your day. It can be very easy. So once we're all cleaned up, what do we do then? Another thing we're going to talk about is grounding. Grounding is a great way to bring ourselves back into our body, to feel here and now, especially when we're dealing with anxiety. You know, we feel like we're walking around in a cloud of chaos. How do I bring myself back to myself? Grounding. A great way to do this is quite literally to use the earth. The element of earth, again, very healing element. It's solid, it's stable, it's there for us. So what we can do is, get barefoot in the grass. Touch a plant, hug a tree. It sounds silly, but it works. When you do that, you can feel yourself, feel the solidity of the ground. Connect with the spirit of the tree, the plant, and, ask for help. I'm feeling really unstable right now. Can you help me? And, ask for help. I'm feeling really unstable right now. Can you help me? It doesn't have to be a big, long prayer. It doesn't have to be flowery. It can be as simple as just, I need help right now. I need to feel grounded. And then you can envision the earth kind of like, again, similar to the shower. Imagine it going down your arms if you're touching the ground. If you're standing on the ground, imagine your feet are roots into the earth. And just that the earth is not only removing what isn't serving you, but giving you new energy. One of the reasons I really like using the element of earth is because of the physical symbiosis that we have with plants already. We inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. The plants, the trees, they intake that carbon dioxide and return us with oxygen. Going back to that principle of correspondence, we can do the same thing with energy. The earth is excellent at renewing energy that isn't serving us. All we have to do is send it, ask for help, and that's it. That's all our job is. The earth is there to support us and help us. Another way that you can do this is, again, going with the tree figure. You can raise your arms up to the sky like the branches of a tree and just imagine all that stress, all those energy blockages, just rising up your arms to the sky and being released. One of the things about energy, in terms of, we're talking about blockages, negative energy, things like that. The thing about energy is that it's neither negative nor positive. It's just energy. It's whether or not it's serving us. There may be types of energy that don't mesh with our systems, and that creates blockages. Or, we're having an interaction with someone, it just feels really negative because they keep putting this negative energy onto us, but we're like, okay, I don't really need that, go away. So doing that is a really great way to kind of like start to remove those interactions that you have with people, the way we feel, the way we perceive ourselves, and start to feel more centered and grounded. Another really fun exercise to do, because a lot of these things, as you do them, you can work to increase your intuitive abilities, your perceptions about energy, when we're visualizing these things, we can hone our instincts. You know, a lot of times we'll use guided visualization to do like chakra clearing, energy balancing. You know, even what I'm talking about, we're talking about a lot of visualization. But you can use this process to go, okay, where do I feel the blockage? Where do I perceive it? You can start to hone your intuitive skills through this process, and it doesn't have to take a whole lot of time. So something fun to do is actually create like an energy ball. You can like hold the space in your hands and just send all of the energy that you no longer need in your body, send it there. And you may actually start to feel it become more dense, more solid as it flows into that space. And then you can either throw it to the earth, throw it to the sky, you know, throw it in some water, bowl of salt, whatever you want. One note though, don't throw it on anyone or your pets, because that would be like throwing an energetic spitball at someone. No one wants that. So one of the things we're going to talk about next in terms of energy removal is etheric cord cutting. So the first question probably is, what are etheric cords? Some of you might know, some of you might not. But etheric cords are attachments that are created when we interact with people. They're like the threads of a web that bind us together. But it's also a two-way street. When we create a connection to someone, that's like a passive energy exchange that we have with them. It can be positive, like our friends or family members, people that make us feel really enlightened. It could be neutral, you know, maybe it's a coworker, a student, what have you. Or it could be negative. You could have a toxic relationship. You know, someone that's always leeching your energy. You know, we hear this concept of like psychic vampires that are just like drains on us. So what we need to do periodically is cut those ties. The reason why it's important is because when we create those attachments, we're giving someone some of our energy. We're giving a little bit of our energy away, and that person is giving some of their energy to us. Now, we don't want that person to be able to draw our energy when we're not actively in interaction with them. And when we cut these ties, it's not permanent. You know, the next time you interact with that person, you're going to reconnect with them. Especially if it's a negative tie and it's been a chronic, you know, maybe this is someone from your childhood and you're like, I'm just done. I need to get rid of this person in my life. It's cutting it once isn't going to do the trick. It's going to take multiple clearings, which is why doing this as like a routine basis, whether it's once a day, once a week, once a month, is a really good practice for keeping your energy, keeping it yours. Because if you don't have the energy to output to others, how are you going to be able to help those around you? If all of your energy is dispersed out into the world, you have to bring it back so that you can have the power to make a difference. There's a lot of ways to do this. You can do it yourself. You can ask for help from your guides or other entities that are skilled at this. For example, I work a lot with the Archangel Michael. He excels at this type of work. He has a flaming sword. He's more than willing to help. You just have to ask. So what you can do is visualize, you know, call to him, Archangel Michael, please help me cut these ties that are no longer serving me and return my energy to me. And you can see him cutting these cords, and you can just visualize the energy coming back to you. Again, you can use this as an exercise to work on your intuitive abilities. But you don't have to in order for it to work. That's the thing. I think a lot of people sometimes get hung up on, oh, I didn't see this, I didn't feel this, that, or the other didn't happen. This is where I hate to be like, gotta have a little bit of faith. You have to trust that when you call to these entities, to your guides, or even your higher self, that they're going to respond. And if you ask for help, they won't deny you. Another way that you can do it yourself, kind of going with the sword idea, visualize your arms as swords. You can just get your scissors fingers out, clip, clip, clip. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Try a couple different ways out and see what works best for you. The next thing we're going to talk about is personal shielding. So now that we've cleansed ourselves, we've ground ourselves, we've removed all these attachments, now how do we stay that way? I've heard from a couple of different clients some hesitation about shielding. You know, they're like, I want to be open, I want to have my abilities, you know, I want to continue to hone this. Shielding is it's gonna block me. It's gonna block me. And to that I say, would you go outside in freezing weather and rain naked? No. No, you wouldn't. You would put on clothes, you'd put on a jacket before you went outside into the elements. And it's the same way in the realms of energy and the realms of spirit. My personal preference, and see what works for you guys, is to use a permeable shield. A permeable shield allows us to filter what's coming into us and stop what we don't want to come to us. I envision it as like a mist or a fog around me, so that way I can feel what you're feeling. I can perceive what's going on, but I'm not taking it into myself. That's a big difference between intuitive and psychic. There's this like, oh, intuitive, oh, psychic. There's a concept that psychic is bringing it into yourself, and I've known of a lot of healers and practitioners that have ended up getting chronically ill because they've taken things into themselves, and then they're not able to do the work that they're set here to do. So that's why I'm so adamant about spiritual hygiene and protection. So you can create whatever sort of shield you would like. And set the intention. A lot of it's about intention. What do I want to come to me? What do I want blocked? Ask your guides, ask your patrons to facilitate this. Another really easy thing to do that's more tangible, and I find it to be very practical, is creating a construct. So what's a construct? You're probably like, oh, I don't know what that is. So a construct is a physical item that you have imbued with a purpose. So that,
Like a talisman.
Like a talisman, yep. A talisman is a construct. Construct's like the umbrella term, and then you have all these little things under it. So for me, an example that I have is my bracelet right here. This is my construct for protection when I'm working. Because when I'm working, I have to be present. I can't be constantly focusing on protecting and shielding myself. I need something else to do that for me so that I can be present. The way that you create a construct, you can do it through energy work. This was given to me as a gift from my partner who's I perceive as my shield. So I already have the association. Then you can do energy work, whether it's Reiki, elemental energy work. You can put it out under the full moon. You can bless it with oils, herbs, put it in salt. There's a ton of different options. But periodically, just refresh it. You're going to protect me. And it will do its job. So when you put on the object, whether it's a rock, bracelet, earrings, ring, some people may even use like a perfume. When you put that on, you know what you're doing. I am currently protecting myself as I put this on. And then every time your attention comes back to the object, it's refreshing the purpose. So you can do this for whatever purpose you'd like, but here we're specifically talking about protection. The next thing we're going to talk about is a very practical and easy application for energy removal. It's called Kenyoku, which means dry bathing in Japanese. This is a technique that I teach in my Reiki classes that was developed by the Japanese Reiki people. So it's very easy to use, and you can do it. You don't even have to, no one has to know you're doing it. You can do it at work. It's very simple. So if you want, you can even do it now while we demonstrate. So the first thing that you do is you take your right hand, bring it to your left shoulder, and you stroke down the front of you, and then you go down your arms, and then you flick the energy off. Yeah. And you can even take it to the next level if you're feeling extra gunky. Go down your legs too. Sometimes I'll be talking to someone, maybe you're dealing with your boss, a coworker, what have you, and you don't have to make a big deal about it. You can just go. It doesn't have to be a big thing. So it's a very easy thing for you to do. And that's my gift to you. We're going to move on to daily rituals. So what is a daily ritual? It's something that you do, a ritual is something that you do for a specific purpose. In this case, we're talking about spiritual advancement, protection, and connection, nourishing our soul. All these things we've talked about so far can all be daily rituals. But we're going to get a little bit more into some specific things you can do to enhance your intuitive abilities, connect with spirit, and have an open line of communication. Most of you are probably familiar with tarot or oracle cards. A lot of people, to get messages from spirit and enhance their abilities, they'll draw a daily tarot card. You can do this with a mobile app, which is, I'm very much into bringing technology into the spiritual realm. Or you can get your favorite deck. There's tons of tarot decks, tons of oracle decks, angels, chakras, whatever suits your fancy. It doesn't really matter. So what you can do is every morning or every evening, draw a card and look at that card and see what symbolism pops off to you. What's the first thing you see? Is it the moon? Is it the name of the card? Is it the number? What does that mean to you? Start to allow spirit to kind of flow through you and see what messages it has to tell you. A lot of times we get stuck on the traditional meanings of things, and I think those are very important. But when you're working to enhance your intuition, this is a great practice. So once you get all the information from just looking at the card, then you can go to your book. Then you can go to your the traditional meanings of the card and see, what did I get that resonates with this? Or maybe it meant something completely different for me. And that's okay. But it's a great way to not only open yourself up to spirit, but to enhance your knowledge base. I try to use everything that I do as a way to learn and grow more. So there's lots of different ways to do this. Some people are more into the lunar cycles, doing energy work by the moon. There's actually a really great app out there for that, but you can obviously look up the moon cycles yourself. But this app has like a lunar forecast, and some people will, the beautiful thing about like a full moon is you can use it to cleanse your, maybe you have a bunch of crystals, you can use it to cleanse your crystals, your working tools. You can take water and make full moon water, which you can kind of use similarly to like holy water. There's lots of different options out there if that resonates with you. I always notice that I seem to be more energetically sensitive as we get to the full moon. I've heard even the most mundane of people go, "They're a full moon? Everyone's acting crazy."
I worked with people with developmental disabilities for 8 years, and I could to help me be proactive about their behaviors, because their behaviors,
Yep.
so you gotta be proactive so they don't have the behaviors and
Exactly.
de-escalate them. So I just started following it. I'm like clockwork.
There you go. It's a great way to be preemptive. I always know, like, even things like planetary alignments. A lot of people may be familiar with like Mercury retrograde. This last Mercury retrograde was a bear. It was bad, I think, for everyone. It was so the planets, the moon, the stars, they do affect us. Think about the moon. It affects. It's part of our gravitational pull. The ocean wouldn't ebb and flow without it.
The sun too, solar flares can really affect us.
Yes. Solar flares can affect your electronics.
And your emotional.
So there's tons of effects. So that's one daily ritual. You could do it in the morning, you could do it at night. Maybe you want to see the forecast for your day. Remember that using tarot and oracle cards, it's not fortune telling. It's divination is about seeing a potential path. There are tons of paths. When we get information from spirit, it gives us a chance to say, you know what, that's not the path I want to go down. I'm going to go this way. So it's giving you a little bit of insight to go, okay, there might be a couple bumps in the road today. I need to look out for that. And then you can change the way that you respond to it. Instead of it blindsiding you and being like, oh my God, this is horrible, you can say, that's what that was. Okay, cool, I can handle this. And then you're prepared. Some people like to reflect at the end of the day. You know, they pull their card and they're like, okay, I see how that played into effect today. And then it can help them kind of come to terms with the things that happened to them throughout the day. Moving on to our next topic, we're going to talk about how to take things we may do every day and make it a little bit more magical. So most people, not everyone, most people have a morning beverage. Coffee, tea. You can take the process of making your coffee, making your tea, and elevating it to the next level. So I'm gonna focus on coffee here because that's what we do in my household. So coffee, when you think about it, what comes to mind? Yeah. So we think about waking up, energizing. I heard sanity. It brings you back down to earth.
Satisfaction.
So you think about all those things that beverage evokes in us. And if you bring yourself a little bit more consciously to that, you can amplify those effects. Coffee comes from a plant, comes from a tree. There's a berry, inside is the coffee seed. You can thank the plant. Thank you for providing me with this energy. As you're making the beverage, think about, okay, I really want this to energize me. I need to be ready for my day. I have an important meeting. Better help me out. You know, you can be, if you have, use your personality when you're working with energies and spirit. It doesn't have to be, oh, coffee. You could just be like, hey, thanks. That's really nice of you to do this for me. It doesn't have to be like prostrating yourself. So we use a pour over. Which is where you have a little thing on top of like a carafe and you have to pour the water yourself. So when I pour, I go clockwise because clockwise is empowering, generally, as I'm going counterclockwise. Clockwise. So clockwise is empowering, but say you want to remove that tiredness, that slump, go counterclockwise. So counterclockwise is for generally removal, clockwise is for empowering. This is not a hard and fast rule. Use what works for you. So the beautiful thing about this is it takes something that you're already doing and amplifying it, connecting you. Because that's all we're doing, we're connecting the energy. not just spirit, but the energies around us. We're made of energy. Tea is a whole different world. I mean, you have black tea, green tea, herbal teas. Herbal teas are like, it's herbal tea with an asterisk next to it because herbs have so many properties that we can use for many different energetic purposes. There's teas that you can use for grounding, cleansing. You know, we use chamomile tea to soothe us. There's all sorts of different applications. You can make a sage tea to purify your insides. There's tons of different options, so feel free to explore, you know, interact with the plants and the herbs that you're working with. You know, thank them. You know, thank you for the work that you do. It doesn't have to be necessarily out loud. It can just be a little thank you in your mind. However, if you do say things out loud, it processes through a different part of your brain, so it can amplify the energy just by saying something aloud. This allows me to move into my next topic about offerings. So in my home, we work with a lot of fae spirits. Most people would probably consider them fairies, but that's usually associated with traditional like Celtic lore. The fae is more of an umbrella term where, you know, I work with the Italian fae spirits. There's, you know, Japanese fae, which are like the yokai, you know, and then the traditional Celtic. So, you know, one of the more common fae spirits is called a brownie. It's like a house spirit. Helps you out in your kitchen, make sure everything's flowing smoothly. So what we do is we leave a little cup of coffee out for them on our windowsill. We're already making the coffee. Doesn't take any extra time. We just pour a little bit for them, set it out. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for helping us out. They also like milk and honey. That's what I did this morning. You can take little bits of your food, leave it for an offering. There's also ancestral spirits that you can work with that while they may have never incarnated, when you're talking about ancestors, they may have just been a spirit that has followed your ancestral lineage as like a spiritual helper. We have one of those that helps us cook. She's great. So if you're doing like bigger work, you know, say you're trying to create intention, like, oh, maybe I need to get a new job and I really want this interview to go well. You can connect with an entity or a spirit that is in alignment for that. Whatever works for you. You know, maybe you are more comfortable working with angels. Okay, Archangel Michael, I need your help. Can you look out for me while I go to this job interview? And you can leave an offering out on whether it's like your dining room table. We have a household altar. It doesn't have to be a big space. It can be like, you know, say this was your nightstand. It could be like a little corner over here. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be like frivolous. Just a small sacred space, a space that's yours. I have a couple of different, examples in your handout for like different options. But what I encourage you to do is do a little bit of research. There's tons and tons of resources out there, both online and in books. I just say, if you're looking online, use your discernment when trying to find a reputable source. Usually you can tell right away if a place feels like fishy or anything like that. And, you know, if you're in doubt, you know, talk to an expert. Talk to, you know, maybe you have a mentor, maybe you have like a spiritual friend. Hey, do you do this? Oh yeah, I do. Okay, see what they do. You know, communicate. This leads me into kitchen witchery or kitchen magic, whatever you want to call it, which is one of my favorite practical applications because, again, much like the showering, we all have to eat at some point. So it's a great way to bring more energy and magic into our life. So like we were talking about with the coffee, most meals, like when you're making a meal for your family, you know, say it's a big family gathering, what do you want that meal to evoke in the people that are coming? You want them to feel satisfied. You want them to be comfortable. You want the food to evoke a feeling of joy within them. And one of the easiest ways to help facilitate that is to pour it into the food as you cook. You can, set the intention while you're cooking, just think about the end result, visualize it in your mind as you're going through the cooking process. You can also be even more practical by adding ingredients, spices, things like that into your dish that can evoke those things. The example that I have for you is more along the staying healthy and getting well line. I make I call it like the kitchen soup. It's when, I have all these vegetables and I need to use them and someone's sick. Okay, let's get you well. So I get my trusty Instant Pot, which is an electronic pressure cooker.
Best invention ever.
Exactly. It tastes like my soup has been cooking all day, yet it only took me an hour to make it. So, I put my chicken in there, and then I start grabbing ingredients that are going to promote health and wellness. I take a giant chunk of ginger because ginger is good for protection, good for digestion, it's good for immune boosting, so I throw a big hunk of that in there. I put garlic in there because it's good, again, for protection and purification. A lot of these, think about garlic for a second. We have a conception, most people have a conception based on the myths that we've been told that vampires will be repelled by garlic. Think about that, and garlic's used for protection. Do you see the connection? That's probably where that mythos came from, but its metaphysical properties are for protection. So it starts to make connections to things you may already know and go, that makes sense. I'll add turmeric because turmeric is extremely immune boosting, anti-inflammatory. It's just great, and it makes your soup a lovely yellow color. Rosemary, good for memory. It's a potent protection and purification. There's so many herbs that are probably in your pantry right now that are great for this. Like rosemary is actually a good substitute for frankincense. I don't know if you know that. And then of course you add salt. Salt is good for purification too. Your pantry can be a treasure trove for all sorts of goodies. Play around with the kitchen magic. There's tons of books out there on it, but you can just do it yourself. Like it's all, again, coming back to intention, coming back to using your energy or asking others to help you to facilitate the effects that you want. So remember, again, trust your intuition when you're finding sources for these things. One of my favorite resources for herbal alignments is called Herbal Riot. It's a Tumblr run by a master herbalist. Her name is Crystal Honora. Excellent, excellent information there. So that's a great online resource, and that's in your handout too. So with everything that we've talked about so far, bringing magic into your daily life, it doesn't really have to be that hard. It's just taking simple things and maybe tweaking them a little bit to bring more awareness into your life. So, does anyone have any questions about anything we've discussed or some experience that they've had? Yes?
What is your title?
What is my title? In terms of what? Like owner-operator, or the fact that I am a witch?
Or that?
I'm a witch. Yeah, well, I'm all part of my mission is to demystify things and things that we perceive as scary, to break that down, because I'm just like the rest of you. I'm trying to follow my path in life, to learn and to grow and connect with spirit. Just because I may do a little bit more hands-on work with like herbs and candles and I have an altar and I talk to whoever wants to talk to me, it doesn't necessarily make me bad. You first.
So I have 3, right? So the one my grandma, she's not a witch, but she is. I have this one from her. Then this one came from my godmother from Colombia, and they blessed it over there. And my mother got me this one from my cousin, I think, or whatever. But it's the red. It's got the the eye and everything. So considering it's like all from family, obviously for protection and all. When it comes to cleansing them, because I can take 2 of them off, the one from my grandma, and again the culture. It's all the same at the end of the day, but we do different. So what would be the best way to cleanse these?
So if you're okay with using like incense or burning something, you could literally take a stick of sage
Okay.
and sage your arm. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but that's like the first thing that kind of came to me. It's really practical because then you don't have to take it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question for you, since I don't really know much about the witch, is it Wiccan or whatever?
No, I'm
No.
just eclectic witch. I'm an eclectic
So,
witch.
but then you'll probably answer the question already, but it's not, do you follow a particular mentoring path, or sort of this sort of ritualistic accreditation, or is this just your own development?
Okay, so little background about me. I was raised Catholic. Yeah, hallelujah! First off, Catholicism is one of the most magical sects of Christianity.
It's very ritual.
Yeah, it's high ritual. That's all it is. Transubstantiation. Yep, all that stuff. So it's not that I didn't believe; it just didn't resonate for me. But as you can see, I still work with Michael. The Mother Mary is one of my patrons. I have no qualms about working with Jesus. I am very eclectic in that way. I needed to find my own path, which is why I identify as eclectic, because Wiccan doesn't really work for me. It's a little too structured. This path to initiation, year and a day, first level, second level. I'm like, why can't I just do it? I'm like a folk witch. Everything that we're talking about is basically folk magic. Folk magic is for the common person. It's not high and might, it's very potent, but it's not ritualistic. Does that answer your question?
I think so, in the sense that you didn't follow a tribe of sorts. So this is your own sort of personal development.
So
you take a little of this and a little of that.
Exactly, which is why I talk about taking what works for you. I've had different mentors, different teachers. I've worked with someone who's more of a Wiccan path, but she's also more eclectic. She's developed her own tradition. I work with, people who identify as light workers, people who work with angels. I have no qualms about learning from someone if they have something to offer me. I'm very open about getting information and integrating it into my personal practice, regardless of where it comes from. If it feels right, I'll use it.
So just as a follow-up then, why would you be a witch as opposed to, say, a shaman or something like that? Because that seems to sound more like a shaman.
So shamanism, I respect it, and we're kind of like a lateral path. I have some elements of shamanism in my practice, but actually my one student and assistant who's at my booth is much more shamanic than I am. If you put us side by side, I come off as witchy, and she comes off as shamanic. And it's just, she works more with the earth, more with the elements. Not that I'm not working with the elements, but she works with them in a different way. And she can travel to the different planes. I struggle with that. So I'm like, I respect it, I do want to study it, but it's just not how I personally identify. Any other questions? Yep.
You were talking about the offerings, and you mentioned Archangel Michael. What would you typically leave at?
So Archangel Michael, element of fire, flaming sword. One of the things he actually really likes is curry. So if you have a curry dish, because think about all the spices that go into that, you can add a little bit of heat for fire. That's what I've done personally. But you can look up different things. That's the example that I have in your handout. if that answers your question. Any other questions?
Back to with the offerings. Like, are they gone the next day?
Oh, okay. That's a really good question because so you usually leave them out for a couple of days. Eventually, they kind of lose their energetic potency, and sometimes, especially if it's a liquid, you'll actually like see it evaporating, and I'm like, oh yeah, you liked it, cool. So in terms of like coffee or tea or something like that, I'll actually pour it on my garden because the nutrients can help. If it's like a piece of toast or some food, put it out for the wildlife. You're creating the cycle. Unless it's like really grungy or if it's growing something, then just throw it out. But especially if it's like a piece of fruit. Like we actually, in our front yard, we have a big birch tree, has a little fairy door. I'll actually put the offerings right in front of the fairy door, and then the next day they're gone. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
Where is your booth in there?
So we're at booth 208. It's the second row in. We're right next to Sticks and Stones, the big stone vendor there. Can't miss us. Did I see another hand?
Oh, and it's at that end.
Yeah, that end. Yes, my dear.
For, like you said, wait for the fruit and all, because again, you know, that's the rock. When you say you can just throw it out, like in the trash, you can just put, like, thank you.
The offering, yep. As long as, I recommend that if you're throwing it out into the trash, you do say a little something, like because you're putting it in with all this other like junk. So if you can't put it outside or if you can't give it back to nature, then just be like, I hope you enjoyed it. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. Especially if you're asking for a petition, some people like Archangel Michael, if you're asking for a specific petition, you can put an offering out, and then when that happens, put another one out. Thank you very much for following through. So you can use it as please help me and as thank you. Any other questions?
Don't you get like ants or animals, you know?
So in my house, I never have a problem with that. I don't know if I have like a magical insect barrier around my house, but I do not have any issues with pests. But you want to put it in like a bowl. You don't want to just like set it down.
All right, so across the street from where I live, it's all woods. Because I was thinking about that too. She must have read my mind. And my neighbor just told me that unfortunately now I think there's raccoons in the neighborhood. So taking it to the woods, like, just, there you go. Thanks so much. I hope somebody eats it.
Yeah, especially if you're concerned about bringing in a pest like a raccoon. If you go away from your home, like if that's across the street,
Literally across the street.
yeah, that would be much better than putting it like outside of your house.
Could you bury it?
If you wanted to.
Make an offering within the earth?
Yeah. It's just going to decompose and the cycle continues. Any other questions?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm envisioning this in my head because I mean I love the woods to look at it. I can't go in there. So is it like, would it be horrible if I kind of just throw it and like pray to it? That's not bad, right? Like the way you're.
I have totally not, I have not been wearing shoes. I've gone out to my patio and gone because I don't want to put on shoes. Like, yeah, I'm like, you're going over there. So it doesn't have to be like super ritualistic if you're like, I don't want to go in there. Like, as long as you've set the intention, you're okay. Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. It was great to have you all here.
We're here today with Celestial Healing Arts. We're a shop out of Lansdowne, PA, and we're offering intuitive healing sessions. These sessions, they're a Reiki base, but we incorporate bioenergy techniques, breath and energy movement techniques, as well as crystal and gem work. Along with that, Cammy is also doing spirit-guided tarot readings, which are a great way if you have a crossroads in your life to figure out which path is going to be the best for you going forward. So I have had a woman come in who had thrown out her back yesterday and was looking for some pain relief. So when I was working with her, I worked really intensively on that spot, and she initially had described it as red and hot, kind of like an oblong shape. And so I did a bunch of work kind of there, as well as going down into her hips. And I definitely noticed that there was a lot of kind of things coming down from like her sciatic area. So working on like the nerves in that area as well to help loosen everything up. So by the time she got done, she was describing it as now a cream color. It was much softer and looser, and she just really got up off the table going, wow, I'm so much looser. And she was really happy. She was in so much less pain in just 20 minutes.
So I made